Welcome to Food Friends, a podcast inspiring home cooks to try new dishes in the kitchen by sharing trusted recipes, tips, and friendship. Hi, I'm Sonia.
And I'm Carrie. We met in Los Angeles over 15 years ago as personal chefs and haven't stopped talking about food since. We're so glad you're here. Thanks for being our food friend.
If you enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with friends. We love hearing from you, so follow us on Instagram or drop us a line at foodfriendspodcast.com.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you and your food friends. Happy cooking and eating. Hi, Sonia.
Hi, Carrie.
Sonia, what was your best bite this week?
My best bite involved one of my favorite ingredients, tofu, but it's not what you're thinking.
Yeah, wait, what did you make? I feel like there's some kind of sheet pan meal coming my way.
No. So I made tofu chocolate mousse. Silken tofu chocolate mousse.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
Which I think we talked about like a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I had made a long time ago, but hadn't made in a long time. But there's this woman at the farmer's market who runs this bakery stand, and she is just one of the sweetest people and has often just given me discounts, or she's just been so generous, and she's vegan. And so I've been giving her vegan treats every so often, but I was like, oh, I don't want to keep giving her the same thing over and over. And I was like, what else could I make? And I had a block of silken tofu in my fridge. And I was like, oh, I could make her some silken chocolate mousse. And I could also make some for us because that sounds fun.
Didn't you used to make that silken tofu mousse for your clients? Because that was a big reveal for me. I've definitely heard of this, but I never made this for clients. I mean, I grew up eating a lot of real pudding.
I'm not anti-real pudding, you know that. And I'm not always looking for these kinds of swaps, but I do like silken tofu in sweet applications because it's just like a custard almost.
Yeah.
So it has to be silken. It cannot be firm or soft, just so anyone out there who tries this. And you make it all in a food processor. You could also do it in a blender, and it takes minutes. And this particular recipe that I made, it was really simple. What I did is you take a block of the silken tofu, you melt some dark chocolate. If you want to keep it vegan, then just make sure it's vegan dark chocolate. And you can do that in a double boiler or in a microwave, just melted. The other important thing is you want your silken tofu to be sitting on the counter for at least 30 minutes so it's not ice cold, because that will help it blend with that melted chocolate better. Otherwise, it can kind of seize up.
Good tip. I don't know that I would ever think about that.
It's a minor detail, but it does really kind of matter. You can let it sit for an hour or two if you want to like plop it out and come back. And then it's melted chocolate in addition to cocoa powder. So there's 2 levels of chocolate flavor. And in this recipe, it had maple syrup and I think coconut sugar, maybe both, but I'm sure you could do one or the other. Or you could do agave if that's your thing. Or you could do real sugar if you don't care about sugar. Any sweetener is going to work here. And then vanilla extract. And you want a good amount because
it really boosts the flavor.
It really boosts the flavor. And then you just puree that until smooth. And then you put it in the fridge for at least an hour to kind of firm up again. It doesn't ever get super firm, but it's definitely not loose. I mean, Jonathan was like, this is like amazing chocolate pudding. And then the other thing I did is I took some frozen berries.
Did you tell him it had tofu in it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I told him.
Okay.
He was all about it. He was excited. He loves tofu. And the other thing I did is I took some frozen berries and I just tossed them also with a little coconut sugar, or you could do real sugar. And then I topped the mousse with those berries. And so that lovely, especially frozen raspberry, I think is key. That kind of floral, lovely sweet and sour note with the rich chocolatey mousse. It was delightful.
I also love that you always think to add a garnish in that way, a berry that's tossed with a little bit of sugar so that it pulls some of that liquid out. It almost makes a beautiful sauce, and it adds a little bit of texture too, which is nice.
Jonathan was already like, when can you make this again? He really loved it.
When we did talk about that a couple of years ago, I thought, I should make that for Mac. I bet he would really love it. That's part of something my mom used to do when she would make these instant puddings or instant jello. It was an easy, everyday dessert that gave you a little something sweet at the end of your meal, but wasn't like a cookie, which no one's mad at a cookie, but you don't always want that, you know?
And you've talked about how your mom would like just top it with some banana, and that would work here. I will just say there is a slight tofu flavor, which some people really don't like. I find it's incredibly subtle for me
Yeah.
personally, and it does a little bit depend on the brand of tofu you try. But if you're like, oh, I just can't get behind any soy flavor, then this might not be the recipe for you.
I wonder if you could add like a little bit of boost to it too. If you really wanted to cover it up, you could add like little amaretto, little bourbon, something like that.
A cherry liqueur could be kind of nice, like
Ooh,
chocolate cherry. I
I
love that idea.
I like that.
Well, Carrie, what was your best bite of the week?
Well, Sonia, I am both surprised and not surprised that we have similar best bites of the week because I recently made Nicole Rucker's tofu co-op brownie cookies, which
Oh my God, Carrie.
which
I
also
love that recipe.
I hadn't made it yet, and I am not a silken tofu person. I never have it in my fridge, so I went out and bought it especially for this. I was so surprised by how fudgy they were. So, you make the liquid part of the batter in a blender. It mixes up really beautifully. The blender does all the work. It makes it super creamy, and then you pour that into a bowl that has your dry ingredients. You stir it together. I love that she has you roll each of the cookies in sugar, which adds this nice crunch to it. And for me, the biggest test was I shared them with other people and I didn't tell them that they were vegan and I also used gluten-free flour and people were like, "What is this? This is so good." I mean, it's really surprising and really fudgy. And I think it really comes from that tofu and then also from cocoa powder.
You add chocolate chunks
Yes.
or chocolate chips. So
Yes.
it's like the combination of cocoa powder with real chocolate, just like the mousse. So of course, surprised, not surprised. When I was saying I want to give her something different, the thing that I've been making this baker all summer were those cookies. I was making the vegan co-op tofu brownie, however you call them. I was making them for her throughout the summer because it was like, this is a great vegan cookie. She's vegan and she loves them. But then I was giving them to other people as well. And not one person knew they were vegan. Not one person knew they had tofu in them. People love them. But I did, when I posted about them, someone commented that it tasted too much like tofu for them. So I don't find that to be true. And
Yeah.
I do wonder, there must be a difference depending on the silken tofu brand that you use.
Yeah. What I love, Sonia, is that you have been making this all summer, and I sort of lost track of that. I didn't know that you had been making this recipe, and I had been wanting to try it. And I think reporting back to each other is part of the fun of this.
I don't even know if I told you that I was baking it. So I love this reveal. I love that we both made tofu desserts completely unplanned. It's just always so fun when that happens, and it happens all the time. So this week we're doing something a little different, which is we asked someone else about their best bite of the week. We're talking to Melissa King. Many of you may know her as a Top Chef All-Star winner and Top Chef contestant. She's been on it twice. She's a fan favorite. She's an amazing chef. She's just come out with a new cookbook, Cook Like a King. We're talking to her not just about her best bite of the week, but we're also asking her about some of her other favorite dishes.
Including some really interesting ways to use miso, her chef tips on how to buy the right kind of miso for the dish that you're making it for. I was also surprised to hear what Melissa revealed, that she always cooks for her friends when she is hosting dinner or that she cooks for date nights.
So stay tuned to hear our conversation with Melissa King. Hi, Carrie. Hi, Melissa.
Hi.
Hi.
Melissa, we're so thrilled to have you here, and congratulations on your new cookbook, Cook Like a King, Recipes from My California Chinese Kitchen.
Hi, thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So every week, Carrie and I share our best bite of the week, something we cooked or discovered that made our week more delicious. And we love how also on your Instagram, you share incredible food you're trying out in the world. We're going to link your Instagram as well as the book in our show notes today. But we're wondering, what was your best bite of the week? Maybe something you ate out in the world, or maybe something you cooked or had in a home kitchen.
I just ate at House of Prime Rib in San Francisco. I don't know if you've been, but it's a lot of fun. It's a prime rib house, and they push giant prime ribs in these carts, and they carve it table side. And then they do this spinning salad, which is my favorite best bite of the whole meal. It's a spinning salad, very classic. It has iceberg lettuce, boiled eggs, I think even like canned beets. Nothing fancy, but it's just like a chopped salad. And they spin it in front of you with, I think it's Thousand Island dressing and seasoning salt. It's just classic, but I'm a sucker for that kind of vibe and that environment.
Are you into a canned beet?
For my salads, honestly, I'm not mad at it. It's like there's something nostalgic about a salad like that.
So can you tell us your whole order?
The whole order was I got the house cut, which is just a classic thick cut prime rib. You can get thin slices, which is an English cut. I was kind of feeling a little naughty. I was like, I'm going to go with the big cut. There was a side of cream spinach, cream corn. They do the old school Yorkshire pudding. And we ended off the meal with the creme brulee. I'm a classic. I'm a purist all the way through and through. And it was my best bite of the week.
I think the theater of the salad is something I'm still thinking about. When you say spin, does that mean they're physically spinning in a bowl, or what does that mean?
Oh, I've done this at home before because it's such a theatrical thing, but you just get a bowl of ice and then you put another bowl on top and you build your salad in that bowl. And they serve it to you with a chilled fork and you spin it in front of your guests and then you drizzle the dressing in really high and low. And it's a whole experience. But, at the end of the day, you're just making a salad. But
I really love that. Sonia and I have had the pleasure of getting our hands on your new cookbook, Cook Like a King. And I myself have already flagged about 15 recipes that I'm really excited to try out. What's one recipe that you're most excited to share?
Oh, great question. There are so many fun recipes in here, from dishes that I did on my experience with Top Chef, things that I make for friends and family at home. But the childhood dishes, I feel, are the ones that I'm really excited to share. One in particular is a Shaighainese Lionhead meatball dish. I don't know if you saw that one in a clay pot right here. It's pork meatballs with glass noodles, and it's simmered in chicken broth with ginger and some Napa cabbage. And it just braised down in a pot, and it's something that my grandma used to make. And it's the only thing my dad knows how to make. And he taught me when I was maybe 10. I used to roll meatballs with him. But it was one of those dishes that became my stinky lunchbox as a kid, and I was a little bit embarrassed about it, bringing it to school. But I look back and I was like, best lunchbox there. This was awesome. So that's a dish that I'm just really excited to share because it's cozy, it's comforting, it's made with love. It's just one of those grandma dishes.
I mean, Melissa, I'm also a child of immigrants, and I did a project long ago called Weird Lunch about people's made fun of lunches that now have become the most important dishes in their life. For me, that was also like beet salad. Like, I love a beet salad, and it was so uncool growing up in the 80s
Were
and
they
90s.
canned beets?
No, they were fresh beets.
Again.
But also, like, one of my most favorite recipes is my grandmother's meatballs, in a specific way she made them. So when I see a meatball recipe like this, I have to make it.
I love meatballs so much. I feel every culture has some variation of a meatball. So the book actually has 2 meatball recipes. The other one is called Mama Mel's meatballs, and they're just your classic Italian meatball simmered in a marinara sauce. I like to have it on the back burner when my friends come over for dinner parties. That way I'm not stressed out too much and it's just ready to go, simmering on the back stove. I make those for date nights. Those are my date night meatballs. So it's a fun, cozy dish.
But there's those chef tips and those little details that really make all the difference. And I love that you're imparting that in this book in a way that's really accessible and still feels exciting. One thing we noticed was there are several recipes that are using miso in really interesting ways. Both Carrie and I immediately were like, we have to make this miso baba Ghanoush. We have to make the miso Caesar. We definitely want to make the roasted potato dish with miso and olives. Like, those are just so up our alley. We're curious, what is it about miso that is so important to you as a chef? And do you have any tips for home cooks on sourcing any particular varieties or brands?
The book itself speaks a lot to the Asian pantry, and it's really empowering you to feel comfortable exploring an Asian market and deciding, even what soy sauce to buy. There's so many on the shelves. And yeah, down to which misos. There's, white and red and yellow. I kind of help you navigate that and walk you through which ones are good for what types of applications. Miso has so much depth of flavor. We talk about umami, and it has like a richness to it. And I think for a lot of the recipes here, it adds just a subtle nuance that you're like, oh, what is that? Like, there's something interesting happening in this dish, but I'm not fully sure what's going on, but I like it. You have the miso baba Ghanoush, which to me just made sense with, I think about Japanese roasted eggplant, and there's a dish where they slather miso on top and you broil it in the broiler. And so it was sort of the combination of this Middle Eastern baba ganoush mixed with this fusion of a Japanese eggplant. And that's kind of where that concept came from.
I mean, I think that's so helpful guiding your readers through an Asian market, talking about how to pick out these ingredients. And something that we're always looking for is a way to simplify dinner without losing flavor and excitement. Is there a go-to quick weeknight meal that you tend to go to?
I literally just made it the other day. It was just a miso marinated piece of salmon. And in the book, it's labeled as a grilled fish collar, and it shows you how to make a separate little ponzu sauce. But the book offers so many different variations, and based off of what you can find, I offer the alternative to use just a fillet and use a fillet of salmon or a fillet of halibut or black cod, and you take that same miso marinade and you marinate the fish overnight and you throw it in the broiler, and within 5 minutes or even like maybe 7 minutes, you have a nice broiled piece of miso fish.
What goes in your marinade besides the mirin? So it's miso and mirin, and what else?
And a little sake, and that's kind of it.
So really
It's
simple.
just a quick, you just mix it together. I put it in a little Tupperware and let it marinate. So the day that I buy the fish is usually when I bring it home, throw it in the marinade. And sometimes I forget about it. It's in the fridge for, a day or two. And then I'm like, oh, I need to cook that piece of fish. And I just, put it on a sheet tray and pop it in the broiler for 7 minutes or so, and it's ready to go.
I think there's two really good tips there too. One, which is that you can marinate your fish for longer than you may think, which I think people get nervous if it's been more than a day. It's sort of nice to hear you say it's okay. And then the second of which is cooking your fish under a broiler, which I also think, there's a lot of people who think you should cook it slow or in oil, and there's so many techniques, not that they're wrong, but a broiled piece of salmon just cooks so quickly and is so delicious.
I'm just such a big believer that fish and seafood shouldn't be cooked longer than, 10 minutes or so, or even 8 minutes.
So, Melissa, I'm a huge Top Chef fan, so you're going to have to indulge us for just a second. And I'm sure that a lot of our listeners are Top Chef fans, and those that aren't, I'll just let them know that you were on 2 separate seasons of Top Chef. Your first season, you came in 4th, which is already a big deal. Then you returned for All Stars, which is a much bigger deal. And you not only won that season, you were voted fan favorite, which again, if anyone's a fan, both of those are huge victories, right?
Thank you.
So as a fan, I've always wondered what makes any chef choose to apply, and how do you psych yourself into it once you're chosen and actually have to go on?
Wow. I think, okay, my first season, I didn't want to go on. I was terrified. Naturally, I'm a very introverted person, and I was so shy back then. I just wanted to hide in a kitchen, but I had a lot of family and friends encouraging me, like, oh, you should try out for this show. And the thought of it gave me the biggest anxiety and knot in my stomach. But as I went through the interview process, one thing just kept leading to another. And next thing you know, I'm getting flown out to Boston to go film my first season. And that knot in my stomach stayed there the whole time through the whole season. And I think you see it on TV. I look like I'm about to barf every episode. And I think the beauty of it all was it taught me to be more confident in my cooking as a chef, but also confident in myself. And so I do feel it opened up a lot within me, that whole experience with my first Top Chef. And then when you see Top Chef All Stars, that was maybe 5 years later, and you kind of see a different person on that season. But yeah, it was an incredible experience for me, and I'm writing a whole memoir about it right now. It actually comes out next year.
Wow, how cool that you have a memoir coming out. And I will say, as you were talking about uncertainty about putting yourself out there like that, I really identify with that. I will also say, as you're talking about being on Top Chef, just the thought of competing against chefs gives me so much anxiety. I have such a hard time watching the show myself. And I honestly don't know how you did it, but what of your experience in Top Chef shaped you as a chef or as a home cook? Did you learn a few things that you've taken with you?
I mean, I think you see a lot of it in the book, to be honest. You see these dishes that I created in the moment where it's really my first time ever thinking to combine some of these flavors and create them in real life. and then debut them on television. Normally in restaurants, you have months to develop a dish. On Top Chef, you have one chance. The ideas that came about on the show, like one of them, for instance, was my finale episode in Italy. We were in Tuscany. I needed to make a finale dessert, and I came up with a Hong Kong milk tea tiramisu, which bridged my Cantonese background. It's a beverage that my parents drank every morning since I was really young, and instead of coffee. And I thought, well, why don't we swap the coffee component for Hong Kong milk tea, which is just black tea and condensed milk, but keep it to a traditional tiramisu. So this recipe is in the book, and it's a great crowd pleaser. I've made this for parties in a huge baking dish. You make it, you set it 2 days before, and when your friends come over, you just pull it out of the fridge and it's ready to go.
I was so thrilled to see that recipe as a fan of the show and also as a fan of tiramisu. I feel okay with things that deviate from the tradition, from the Italian tradition, but I feel like this really honors it in such a beautiful way. And so I'm excited to try. You've done so many things since Top Chef, and that bravery seems to have really paid off. And now people get to hear your voice more in the world, not just on Top Chef, but in other appearances and now with this book. But I am curious if from the show or from your other experiences, is there any chef that has actually changed your cooking?
So many from Top Chef. We are a little family. Whether you've been on season 2 or season 20, we at some point encounter each other, whether it's at a food festival or even just on social media. As stressful as the competition was, you were surrounded by these really talented chefs from across the nation. Mei Lin was a huge influence in my career. She taught me how to use like a pressure cooker in my first season, and I was like, how do I use this? But I do think, we think very alike with our background as Chinese Americans, and specifically Cantonese Americans. I look at Kwame Onwuachi and Gregory Gourdet, and just people that are really leaning into their culture and who they are as chefs. Kwame is West African, and we have Gregory Gourdet, who's Haitian. I think the first few seasons, we don't lean into ourselves as much. And then when you see kind of All Stars, you see us lean into who we are and the foods that we grew up with. And I found that to be a really beautiful thing that was captured on television. I can see it today in their cooking.
I'm Portland, Oregon based, so Gregory Gourdet is just such a, shining beacon of the culinary world here. His restaurant,
He's incredible.
Is absolutely amazing. He's inspired me so much. But yeah, everyone you named. I can understand why it's like it becomes collaborative and dynamic over time.
Absolutely.
Melissa, is there any tip or lesson that you wish more home cooks knew? And maybe that's also in your book.
Give yourself grace. There are going to be times you make a lot of mistakes in the kitchen. You burn something, you oversalt it. I certainly did not get to where I am in my career. None of us, as far as, people that are professional chefs, none of us got to where we are without making thousands of mistakes and cuts and burns. You have to repeat things over and over until you perfect it. And so when you do try a recipe in the book, make sure you read it and you actually follow the instructions before you go rogue and do your own thing. And I'm sort of holding your hand through the process, through very detailed recipes, but it's because I want you to be able to cook like a king. I want you to learn some of the techniques that I've learned through my career, simple ones, like how to sear a steak for 2 to mid-rare. It could be for you and your partner, and you just have a nice little date night together, or how to make a crispy salmon and get that glassy skin. Something as simple as even changing your pantry, looking at the type of salt that you use, or even spending that extra $1 for a nice quality olive oil. It is worth it, and it will change your whole game.
I think that's such a great piece of advice, to offer grace to yourself. And I think when you're making mistakes in your own kitchen alone, it's hard to remind yourself to offer that, and to know that when you go into a restaurant, that dish that you really loved has been made hundreds of times, maybe thousands of times, and that teams of people have thought about that.
Yeah.
Well, Melissa, we like to ask one final question to everyone who comes on our show, which is there something you like to eat on your birthday, or how do you celebrate your birthday with food?
I oftentimes travel. I've spent my birthday, I was alone one time in Mexico City eating at Pajol. Is that how you pronounce it?
That's pretty amazing.
And I just had I had the vegetarian tasting menu.
Wow.
And just was in it. I was in the experience of it all. I've also spent my birthday in Copenhagen eating at Relay. I've been in Bangkok for my birthday and was eating street foods. I love the concept of just being somewhere where I can savor the flavors of the surroundings of where I am and not have to be the one cooking.
Well, Melissa, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you, to chat about your new book, Cook Like a King. We're going to link it again in the show notes. We'll also link to your Instagram, to your website, so people can follow your cooking adventures and learn more about you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Thanks, Melissa.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for being our food friend.
If you enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with friends. We love hearing from you, so follow us on Instagram or drop us a line at foodfriendspodcast.com.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you and your food friends. Happy cooking and eating.